I'm 74 years old. I live in a 4-bedroom house by myself. There's a car in the garage I rarely drive and a savings account with more money than I'll ever spend. And most nights, I eat dinner alone at a kitchen table built for 6. I'm not telling you this because I want sympathy. I don't. I'm telling you because I spent 35 years of my life believing I was building something. And I was. I just didn't realize what I was destroying at the same time. If you're young and you're watching this, I'm not here to lecture you. I'm just here to tell you what happened, what I did, what it cost. And maybe, if you're paying attention, you'll see something in my story that makes you pause. That's all I'm asking. Just a pause. My name is Richard. Most people called me Rich, which looking back now feels like some kind of cruel joke the universe was playing on me the whole time. Rich. I chased that word my entire adult life. And I caught it. I caught it and held on to it so tight that everything else slipped right through my fingers. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My father worked at a factory. My mother cleaned houses. We weren't poor, but we weren't comfortable either. There was always this tension around money. I remember my parents arguing at night when they thought I was asleep. It was always about bills, always about what we couldn't afford, always about next month. I told myself I'd never live like that. I told myself my kids would never hear those arguments. My wife would never have to worry about the electricity getting shut off. I was going to be different. I was going to be better. And in a way I was. Just not the way I thought. I got my first real job when I was 23. Entry level at a manufacturing company. Nothing glamorous, but it paid. And I worked. God, I worked. I was the first one in and the last one out. I volunteered for extra shifts. I took on projects no one else wanted. I made myself indispensable. By 26, I was promoted. By 29, I was a supervisor. By 32, I was making more money than my father ever did in a single year. I remember calling him to tell him about my raise. He was quiet on the phone. Then he just said, "Don't forget to live, son." I didn't know what he meant. I thought I was living. I thought this was living. Working hard, earning more, climbing higher. That's what men did. That's what good providers did. I met my wife, Elaine, when I was 27. She was a nurse. Kind eyes. Patient. She laughed at my bad jokes. She didn't care about money the way I did. She just wanted time. That's what she always said. "I just want time with you, Rich." We got married when I was 29. She was 26. We bought a small house with a yard. We talked about kids. We talked about the future. Everything felt possible. Our first daughter, Sarah, was born when I was 31. I was at work when Elaine went into labor. I almost missed it. I made it to the hospital with maybe 20 minutes to spare. I remember holding Sarah for the first time, this tiny thing in my arms, and thinking, "I'm going to give you everything." And I meant it. I really did. But somewhere along the way, everything stopped meaning presence and started meaning provision. It stopped meaning being there and started meaning paying for things. I didn't notice the shift. It happened slowly, the way most dangerous things do. When Sarah was 3, our son Michael was born. 2 kids, a bigger house, a bigger mortgage, more reasons to work, more reasons to stay late, more reasons to miss dinner. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was doing it for them. I told myself once I hit a certain number, once I reached a certain position, I'd slow down. I'd be there more. We'd take vacations. I'd coach Little League. I'd be the dad I always imagined. But the number kept moving. The position kept rising. And I kept chasing. Elaine never yelled at me. That wasn't her way. But she'd get quiet sometimes. She'd look at me across the table, on the rare nights I made it home for dinner, and there was something in her eyes. Not anger. Something worse. Resignation. I remember one night. Michael was maybe 7, Sarah was 10. I came home late, again. The kids were already in bed. Elaine was sitting in the living room with the TV on, but she wasn't watching it. She was just sitting there. I said, "Long day." She nodded. I said, "I'll make it up this weekend. We'll do something. All of us." She looked at me and said, "You always say that, Rich." And I did. I always said that. And sometimes I meant it. But the weekend would come and there'd be emails to answer, calls to take, problems to solve. The weekend would come and go and I'd promise again. Next weekend. Next month. Next year. The kids grew up in the margins of my attention. I was there, but I wasn't. I attended some of their school events. Missed more. I made it to a few of Sarah's dance recitals. Missed Michael's first home run. I was always catching the highlights secondhand, hearing about their lives from Elaine like a neighbor being updated on someone else's family. I told myself they understood. I told myself they knew I was doing it for them. Kids are smart, right? They see the nice house, the good school, the vacations we did take. They understand sacrifice. But here's what I've learned at 74. Kids don't remember what you bought them. They remember whether you were there. And I wasn't. By my mid-40s, I was a senior executive. Big office, big salary, big title. I'd made it. I'd done what I set out to do. And I barely noticed what was happening at home. Sarah was in high school, and I didn't know who her friends were. Michael was playing sports, and I couldn't name his teammates. Elaine and I slept in the same bed, but we'd stopped talking about anything that mattered. We were roommates managing a household, not partners building a life. I remember one Thanksgiving. I think Sarah was 16. We were all at the table, me, Elaine, Sarah, Michael, and I realized I didn't know what to say to them. I asked Sarah about school, and she gave me one-word answers. I asked Michael about his team, and he shrugged. Elaine just watched me struggle, and there was that look again. Resignation. After dinner, I went to my home office to check emails. It was Thanksgiving, and I was checking emails. At the time, I thought I had to. Now I know I was hiding. It was easier to work than to sit with the silence I created. The years kept passing. Sarah went to college. Then Michael. The house got quiet in a different way. Elaine and I were alone together for the first time in nearly 2 decades, and we didn't know how to be with each other anymore. We tried. I'll give us that. We went on a few trips, had dinners out, but the conversations felt forced. We'd spent so many years not connecting that we'd forgotten how. Or maybe we'd never really learned in the first place. We'd gone from young love to parenthood to whatever this was. 2 strangers who shared a history, but not much else. I kept working, 60 hours a week, sometimes more, even when there was no reason to, even when the money didn't matter anymore. I didn't know how to stop. Work had become my identity. Without it, I didn't know who I was. Elaine started spending more time with her sister, more time with friends, more time anywhere that wasn't with me. I didn't blame her. I was boring. I was absent even when I was present. I'd given so much of myself to my career that there was nothing left to give to her. When I was 58, she asked me to retire early. We had enough money, she said. More than enough. We could travel. We could spend time with the grandchildren when they came. We could actually live. I said I wasn't ready. I said I'd retire at 60, maybe 62, just a few more years. She didn't argue. She just nodded. That same quiet nod she'd been giving me for 30 years. 2 years later, she was diagnosed with cancer. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday. I was at work when she called. She didn't cry on the phone. She just said, "They found something, Rich. You should come home." I left work early that day. First time in years. The cancer was in her pancreas. Advanced. They gave her a year, maybe 2 if the treatment worked. I remember sitting in the doctor's office, holding her hand, and feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. All those years of working, planning, saving for what? For this? I told her I would retire immediately. I told her I would be there every day. I told her we would fight this together. She looked at me and smiled. A sad smile. And she said, "You're always going to be there next time, aren't you, Rich?" It wasn't an accusation. It was just the truth. And it cut deeper than anything she could have yelled at me. I did retire. Within the month, I was suddenly home all day, every day, for the first time in 35 years. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to take care of her. I didn't know how to be a husband. Elaine taught me. In her final months, she taught me how to be present, how to sit with her without checking my phone, how to listen without planning my response, how to just be there. We talked more in that year than we had in the previous decade. She told me things I never knew, about her fears, her regrets, her disappointments. She told me she'd loved me the whole time, even when I wasn't there, even when it hurt. She told me about the nights she'd waited up for me, hoping I'd come home early, the school plays she'd watched alone, saving a seat that stayed empty, the birthdays where she made excuses to the kids about why Daddy had to work. She wasn't angry. That was the worst part. She'd made peace with it long ago. I was the one who hadn't. She died 14 months after the diagnosis. It was a Sunday morning. I was holding her hand. The house was quiet, and then she was gone. I sat there for a long time after. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just sat there, holding her hand, thinking about all the time I didn't spend with her, all the hours I gave to spreadsheets and meetings and quarterly reports instead of giving them to her. The funeral was small. Sarah came with her husband and their 2 kids. Michael came alone. He'd been divorced for a year. I hadn't known that until recently. After the service, we all went back to the house. My grandchildren ran around the backyard while Sarah and Michael sat with me in the living room. It was awkward. We didn't know how to talk to each other. We were family by blood, but strangers by choice. My choice. Sarah left the next day. Michael stayed one more night, then he left too. And I was alone. That was 6 years ago. I see Sarah maybe twice a year. She's busy with her own life, her own kids, her own job. I understand. I taught her that, didn't I? I taught her that work comes first, that you can always see family later. Michael calls sometimes. Short conversations, surface level stuff. How's the weather? How's your health? He never asks for advice, never shares anything real. There's a wall between us that I built, brick by brick, over 40 years. I don't blame him for not tearing it down. My grandchildren barely know me. They're polite when I see them, but there's no bond. I'm not the grandfather who took them fishing or taught them to ride a bike. I'm the grandfather who sends checks on birthdays. Another absence filled with money. I have friends, I suppose. A few people from work I still talk to occasionally. But those relationships were built on a shared context that no longer exists. Once the job was gone, there wasn't much left to talk about. I'd never invested in friendships, never made time for them. I was too busy working. So now I have this house, these rooms, this silence. I wake up in the morning and there's no one to say good morning to. I make coffee for one. I read the news on my tablet. I go for walks around the neighborhood. I come home. I make lunch for one. I watch television. I make dinner for one. I go to bed. This is my life now. This is what I built. I have money. I have security. I have everything I thought I wanted when I was 23 and scared of being poor. But I don't have anyone to share it with. I don't have anyone who needs me. I don't have anyone who would notice if I didn't wake up tomorrow. Sometimes I sit in the living room in Elaine's chair. I can almost feel her there. I talk to her sometimes, out loud, tell her about my day, apologize for things I can't fix. It helps, a little. I think about what my father said to me on that phone call 40-something years ago. Don't forget to live, son. I didn't understand him then. I thought he was being sentimental, old-fashioned. I thought I knew better. I didn't. Living isn't about earning. It isn't about achieving. It isn't about having enough in your account to feel safe. Living is about being present for the people who love you. It's about showing up. Not tomorrow. Not next weekend. Now. I can't go back and show up for Sarah's recitals. I can't go back and watch Michael hit that home run. I can't go back and sit with Elaine on all those nights she waited for me. Those moments are gone. They happened without me, and they can never happen again. That's the thing about time. You don't notice it leaving. It just goes, quietly, one day at a time. And by the time you realize what you've lost, it's too late to get it back. If you're watching this and you're young, or even if you're not so young, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to pretend I have wisdom that will change your life. I'm just going to tell you what I wish someone had told me. The work will always be there. The emails will keep coming. The deadlines will keep pressing. And if you let them, they will take everything from you. Not all at once. Slowly. Gently. So gently you won't even notice until it's done. Your kids will grow up while you're at the office. Your spouse will stop waiting up for you. Your friends will stop inviting you to things. And one day you'll look around and realize that you optimized your whole life for something that can't hold your hand when you're scared, that can't laugh at your jokes, that can't remember who you were before you got old. I'm not saying don't work. I'm not saying money doesn't matter. It does. I know what it's like to grow up without it. But there's a line somewhere between enough and too much, and I crossed it without ever seeing it. I chose the career. I chose the hours. I chose the money. And I lost my wife in slow motion over 30 years. I lost my children without realizing they were slipping away. I lost myself in a title and a salary that mean nothing now. I'm 74 years old. Statistically, I have maybe 10 years left if I'm lucky. Maybe less. And I'll spend those years in this house, with these memories, with this regret that sits beside me like a second shadow. I'm not looking for forgiveness. I'm not looking for pity. I made my choices and I have to live with them. But maybe, if you're still listening, you can make different ones. Go home on time tonight. Put your phone away at dinner. Look at the people across the table from you. Really look at them. Ask them questions. Listen to their answers. Be there. Not halfway. Not with one eye on your inbox. All the way there. Because one day, they won't be there anymore. Or you won't. And all the money in the world won't buy you back a single moment you missed. I know that now. I learned it too late. I hope you learn it sooner. The house is quiet tonight. The sun is going down. I'm sitting in Elaine's chair, looking out at the backyard where my grandchildren played once, years ago. The grass needs cutting. I'll get to it tomorrow. Or maybe I won't. It doesn't really matter. Nothing I do now really matters. Not to anyone but me. And that's the loneliest thing I've ever had to accept. If this story meant something to you, I'm glad. If it made you think, even for a moment, about how you're spending your time, then maybe it was worth telling. That's all I have. Thank you for listening to an old man talk about his mistakes. I hope you don't make the same ones. I'm 74 years old. I live in a 4-bedroom house by myself. There's a car in the garage I rarely drive and a savings account with more money than I'll ever spend.